The creative process, never a straight path, never orderly, often messy, a road paved with fear and doubt, until that moment when you unlock the magic of your imagination. Every journey is different, and here's today's story.
So I started doing it, and at first, it was just kind of a thing, right? It was good for me, and then people would comment, and then they would do it for a little bit. But for me, when I found that when I didn't do it for a day and I missed a day, I started noticing because I would feel
Mm.
differently. My world would be a little bit different.
I'm here with Lisa Condon, who has created not only just one deck, but two decks. So, Lisa, tell me, why is it so important for people to know their value?
Good question. I think value systems are really the core of who we are as human beings, or from a business perspective, it's the core and the heart of the business. And what it allows you to do is really build your structure and your world and your plan around what you care about most in your life. Because once you know that, you can set boundaries, you can understand your
Mm,
perfect client, you can build a life that brings you complete joy. But you have to know your core values first, which are very different than priorities.
that's so interesting. So, a business needs to know. It's important for a business to know, and it's important uh, for us as personal humans to know. So, you
Yes,
created two card decks. So, you just want to show us what they look like?
I do. I'm so excited. So I have two different decks. And so these beautiful decks,
Love it.
this is the personal deck. And as you can see, there's core value and a little bit about what it means, because sometimes,
Mm.
again, values come out and we have a little bit of a misnomer of what they mean. So I wanted to make sure to give a little bit of a definition. And then there's also my business deck. And again, same type of thing where it's a word that represents the value and a little bit of a definition. There are instructions in how to actually use these cards, because you can just lay them out in front of you and affirmations, but that's not what these are. These are actually a tool to be used to really help set the foundation from which
Mm.
to build. So again, there's some instructions on what to do, but some you will find too that some of the values are the same in both decks, because sometimes the value in your business is the value that you also have as a person. However, I would say about 70% of the cards are different, because business core values tend to be very different, or the definition of the word is going to be different than what it might mean in your personal life.
So that's interesting. So how would you even, like, how many core values do you choose for yourself?
So, what I like to do, and I chuckle like that because I have a pretty significant method of how I get to the core values, and there's some aha moments. So I won't give that away, but you try to narrow it down to two. Your top two
Wow.
in your personal life, and rating them. In business, I usually like to have three, because then again, you can build, I like the power of three, but you build your mission, your vision, your job descriptions, again, your strategic plan, and build in those core values. So usually three for business, two for personal.
Yeah, and I'm thinking now, because as you grow as a person, right, or even as you grow as a business, then I guess your values can change, right, over time.
So they usually don't. Now,
Really?
so from a business perspective, yes, because oftentimes your business will evolve. However, if you always go back to starting with why and why you started your business, and just going back to the simple, core of who you are, then, and I'm just pulling two out. So let's say that trust and wealth are your top two for your business, and purpose. So I'm just pulling
Hmm.
these out, right? So if these are your three, it's very rare that these top three will change, but the priority of them, like the order of them, might change.
That's
Um,
interesting.
from a personal perspective, it's very rare that your top two change. Very, very rare. When they do, it usually is around family as a core value, and it's because maybe
Hmm.
something significant has happened that maybe it wasn't in your top two, but now it is. And so that's the one that tends to change. And usually family is one that's in over 80% of people's top two core values, which is
Wow.
also really interesting.
Yeah. And I'm guessing that they can just get deeper and stronger and more, and you can understand you change maybe the definition of it slightly, right? And that maybe is what grows with you at that point, right?
Exactly. And that's exactly it, Rosie. Yep, exactly. And as we get older and meaningful, even for me, and I'll use family as an example. So I created these because I had an experience over 20 years ago that I was in a leadership program and we did a core value assessment. Never even thought about doing it. And it changed my life. But what
Mm.
was interesting is at that time, family wasn't even in my top 10. And the instructor of the class had said, was talking about values. And she said, how many of you have family in your top two? And I was the only person in the class that didn't raise their hand. So it was an eye-opening experience. Now family would be in my top five, still not in my top two, but it would be in my top five. But it's because since then I've gotten married. I, have a family. And so that's created and cultivated some change in my own life. Still not in my top two.
Right. So I'm wondering how many of us walk around without really having our values in both of those things, and how much of a difference it actually makes. And
Mm-hmm.
like you said, there's so many benefits to knowing it. You just act differently. I'm guessing, right?
Yeah, I would say most people don't know their core values
Mm.
unless they've done the actual work. And I think we often think we know what they are until you're put to the test, until you actually sit down and do the work. And then all of a sudden, like I said, I've watched aha moments happen,
Yeah.
and it's so fun to watch it. And then, I mean, imagine this. So imagine you figure out your core values, and then you take a day in your life and you map out the time of each thing that you do in your day, and then align that with your core
And
values.
it doesn't fit.
And it doesn't fit. So, and it happens all the time.
Yeah.
But then imagine if you did align it, what you would feel like, how your life
Mm,
would be, what you would be able
that's
to accomplish.
amazing.
I mean,
Wow.
and if we're all living in our core values, then think about what the communities of our world would be like. So, I mean,
Yeah.
there's
So
just so many
different.
benefits of knowing it.
That
Yeah.
that is really profound. So, we're really not talking about a card deck here. We're talking
Oh,
about
no.
something that is a totally transformational. And so
Mhm.
that's always what amazes me about these things. And this is just it's not a huge, like, it's not a huge, like, thing that you have to do in order to get to
Right.
them, right? You just have to sit down, get a little quiet, do whatever exercises come with it that you would teach, and then so that's
Exactly.
amazing.
But you know what, Rosie? I think you hit the nail on the head. You have to sit down and you have to get quiet and you have to be intentional. And
Mm,
people don't take
you
that time
don't.
for themselves. They
Yeah,
don't do it. And, so that's actually why I created the deck for businesses, because people will do it for their businesses before they do it for
mm,
themselves. And both
which
are
is
incredibly
amazing on its
important.
own.
Right, exactly, exactly.
Yeah,
So, but again, it's that intentional groundedness that's a tool to use to find that. Yeah.
that's really amazing. That's unbelievable. So we'll talk about where people can get these decks, because I think that, I mean, why wouldn't you? I mean, it's like a no-brainer for up leveling all areas of your life. But you also do something else that's really interesting. You are just like really the gratitude woman.
I
So you
am.
go to your website, it's like download your free gratitude guide, right? So tell me about how gratitude became the center of your essence, your
you,
being.
it's so random how it started. So a friend of mine, who actually we used to work together, she started posting these daily gratitudes on Facebook 14, 15 years ago. I can't believe Facebook's been around that long.
Oh my
Um,
God.
I know. So, so I
Especially when
reached
you were the first people on it, right?
out. Yes, exactly. Um, But she started doing this and I noticed. And so I reached out to her and just said, hey, Terry, do you mind if I kind of steal this and start doing it myself? And of course, she's like, of course, do it. And so I started doing it. And at first, it was just kind of a thing, right? It was good for me. And then people would comment and then they would do it for a little bit. But for me, when I found that when I didn't do it for a day and I missed a day, I started noticing. because I would feel
Mm.
differently. My world would be a little bit different. And I purposefully do it in the morning. My gratitude practice is the beginning of the day. People do it, at all points in their day, but I do mine in the morning. And then I started seeing a real transformation internally of the way I started seeing the world, of the way I interacted with people, of the people I attracted and who the universe brought to me.
Wow.
And then I decided that, I wanted to share the transformation that I went through with other people. So similar to the experience I had with the cards,
Yeah.
from a values perspective, I wanted to share the gratitude piece. So since then, I've built out, 9 steps to gratitude and using your own experiences to get you to emerge to that next level for yourself.
Mm.
And I work with people all the time on helping them find gratitude. And in fact, I'm doing a compilation book right now where people can share their stories of gratitude, and that's coming out in November of 2023.
Wow, that's wonderful. Yeah, well,
Yes,
I mean, they say gratitude is really the only prayer you ever need to say, right? So if you're
correct.
living in that way, so really what you're teaching people then, it's just really to be more conscious about how you're showing up everywhere, right? With
Everywhere.
gratitude, with your values. I mean, all of that, if
Mhm.
like you said, if we all did that, how amazing that would be.
Yeah, exactly. And and again, it goes back to we don't take the time to do it, but the immense change when we do is
Mhm.
incredible and it's profound. It's profound.
Yeah, I'm like the amount of time it takes to do it versus the benefits are like
Right.
it's like a no-brainer. Like you can spend like how many minutes do you need to spend on your gratitude in the morning
Oh
to
my
have
gosh. I spend barely any time at all. So my whole morning routine of gratitude, and I do card pulls and that type of thing, 5 minutes. I mean, it's really not a
to
lot of
change your
time.
day? Yeah,
Hmm.
right. I mean, so you're really giving these simple things that once you implement them, you make these huge changes. I love that.
Like,
It's
yeah,
amazing. So there's one more thing that I want to ask about you. You are a poet.
I am.
Which I love. And
You've done
it's
research on me, Rosie.
it is so interesting that I was just listening to this woman yesterday in a podcast and it was all about words and she was reading poetry and I'm like, oh, I want to write poetry. And then I see that you were a poet, I'm like, oh my God, that's amazing. So tell
Yeah.
me how, like, what is that about your love of poetry? And was it just an innate thing?
So I started writing. I was very, very young and writing stories. And it's funny, I was just talking to my husband last night about this. I used to write around Tom the turkey and then Tina the turkey, right? And when I was a tiny little kid, and I had this whole thing of stories. But when I was in second grade, I we I always was at the library, and actually that all went through college. I always worked at libraries. I have this innate love of
Mm.
words. But we had to read something to our class because we were learning how to read. And I still remember the poem. I picked this poem about rainbows, but it was the rainbows being the wickets in the universe's croquet, like the game croquet. It
Yeah.
was they were the wickets in the croquet game, and I just randomly found it and I fell in love with it, and I liked the imagery, and so I just continued to write, and then I realized that um, I was not very good at connecting my heart and head. And so it was a real
Mm.
way for me to express feelings or what I might be going through at the time. And at 15, I had my first poem published. And so
Wow.
it's one of those things that I do it for me, I think more than anything else. But again, it's the first book that I put together for myself around poetry was called My Soul because it truly is. And
Mm.
that if you want to know me, read my poetry.
Wow. That's beautiful. And I love also that you allow yourself to do something that's just for yourself. Like, because
Mm-hmm.
sometimes we're like, oh, well, if I'm good at this, I need to make a business of it or I can sell it but just to do it for you because it's something that you enjoy and you love.
Mm-hmm.
And also like nice that you share it. If
Right.
if you want to share it, that would be nice too, right? To
Yeah,
inspire other people to bring out their hidden little gems of themselves, right?
exactly. Yeah, I think people are so fascinating because they have all of these things with what like you said, hidden gems. I love that. I actually am going to steal that because it really is. And whether it's writing or maybe it's singing or maybe it's not even artistic, maybe your hidden gem is truly a love of math, whatever it might be. And what are you doing to use that to bring you joy? Because it's
Mm,
only when you fill your cup can you start really inspiring others, right? I mean,
yeah.
but so what are you doing, and are you taking the time to do it? And I'm as guilty of it as anybody else, and not taking the time for me to do the things that ground me and bring me joy. I do it as much as I can, and but goes back to the 5 minutes every single day. That's my time, but we need more of that. We all do.
No, maybe there's a gratitude poem in the midst coming. I feel a gratitude
Maybe
poem.
there already is one, Rosie.
Oh,
Maybe there already
maybe.
is one.
So I think that kind of brings us back around. You said like filling your cup. So the way you fill your cup in life really is like by living your values. So it
Exactly.
all comes back to that, filling your cup to take the time to live as the best version of yourself that you can be. And that would be in gratitude, bringing your values to the table.
Hmm.
So,
Yeah, and that's exactly it. My top two values are integrity and creativity. And
mm,
that's what is incredibly important to me. And that's my personal values. My business is different, but when I'm able to align that everything that I'm doing has integrity around it, and when I can add the creativity piece to it,
mm,
even through all of my process building and all of that, because I do
yeah,
a lot of project management, if there's a creative way to bring something to the table or just be a little bit different, that's what I do. And in every single thing that I do, and that alignment, it just really makes a difference for who I am every day.
I love that. So, where can people find the cards, find more about your gratitude work, maybe your poetry? Where do people find you?
So they can come to my website. Everything is there. So, and it's very easy, lisacondon.com.
That's
And
easy.
easy peasy, right? And it's like London, but with a C.
So there you
Um,
go.
so, again, you can find out all about me and what I do, and my cards are out there. And it's, again, if you want to reach out to me, you can contact me through there as well. I love meeting people from all around the world and having conversations and understanding who they are.
Nice. Awesome. Thank you so much, Lisa. This has been really fun and hopefully, I mean, it's inspiring that it doesn't really take a lot for you to raise your level and be in this world in a better way. But thank you so
Exactly.
much for bringing that gift to the table and giving us a tool to be able to do that in an easy way. All right.
No.
I love it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Rosie. I appreciate you.
So, Lisa, what was your favorite part of the creation process?
Whew, I think it was pulling the team together that I needed. I realized that I can't do everything myself, nor do I want to. And so I pulled, like Rosie, I asked for your help, and I had my designer who took inspiration from one of my paintings and pulled that together for the card. So I loved being able to do that and then seeing that final result. And I mean, let's face it, when you get the cards in the mail and you see them for the first time, I mean, that's pretty exciting too.
So, Lisa, what did you learn about yourself during the creation process?
So I learned that I have to have more patience. I had this vision of what I wanted, Rosie, and I couldn't get there fast enough. But in order to do it right, I needed to move at a slower pace to make sure that everything was exactly what I imagined it to be. At the end of the day, too, progress over perfection always. So again, I just need to slow down and have that patience. And so I have taken that into kind of the next project that I'm doing.
I love it. That's so awesome. I mean, that's a message for all of us, right? So good. Thank you.